What if an interstellar object whirling through our solar system is actually a nuclear-powered spacecraft? Perhaps this is a visitor, an intelligent visitor from another solar system. We are being visited. Is it an alien ship? A comet? Scientists and researchers are left puzzled. On July 1, 2025, the Survey Telescope Network Atlas in Chile detected a faint moving object, initially thought to be an asteroid. It was first noticed as nothing more than a faint glimmer of light, and the system had flagged it as a routine object, a possible asteroid slipping quietly through the outer solar system. It was dim, slow-moving, and unremarkable to most of the algorithms that scan the night sky. But within hours, the orbital data showed something that changed everything. They claimed the James Webb Space Telescope spotted a large object about 10 light-years away moving toward Earth. The posts claimed that the telescope captured the object changing its trajectory. Its path was not elliptical, not bound by the sun. It was hyperbolic, slicing through the solar system on a one-way course from the interstellar void. Astronomers checked the numbers again and again. The eccentricity was far greater than 1, too high for any comet born in our system. Astronomers called it 3I/Atlas, named after the Atlas system that detected it. At first, the headlines were calm. Another visitor from another star. Nothing more than cosmic debris flung across space. But something about it didn't fit the usual pattern. It wasn't just its speed, nearly 60 kilometers per second relative to the sun, but the way it moved, clean, deliberate, almost planar. Its trajectory strangely aligned with the ecliptic of the planets. For an object arriving randomly from another system, that was statistically improbable. Then came the first deep exposures. The object showed a faint, symmetrical glow, not quite a tail, not quite a coma. At a distance of 6 astronomical units, long before it should have warmed enough for sublimation, it was already active. Gas was leaking from it, mostly carbon dioxide, far more than water vapor, unlike any comet known. Some began to call it a green ghost, for the eerie jade hue that telescopes captured in its outer layers. Just when astronomers thought they understood comets, 3I/Atlas rewrote the rules. In a single week, this colossal interstellar traveler blazed from red to emerald green, something no one expected and no telescope had ever caught in such detail. The cause? Unfamiliar molecules, possibly alien cyanides, lighting up in ways never seen in our solar system. As it approached, the Vera Rubin Observatory caught high-resolution data that hinted at internal flickers of light within the coma. The pattern wasn't random. It pulsed in intervals that repeated, 23 minutes apart, then shifted slightly as if adjusting. Scientists dismissed it as a rotational signature, perhaps the sunlight glinting off an irregular surface. By August, 3I/Atlas was the size of a Manhattan island in estimation, about 11 kilometers across. The light curve indicated that its surface reflected light in a way inconsistent with dusty ice. It had metallic sheen in the infrared, and the James Webb Space Telescope detected emission lines corresponding to an alloy never recorded in any natural sample. NASA hesitated before confirming the data. The composition matched nothing in the spectral libraries of known elements mixed in cosmic dust. That was when the murmurs began. First on private forums of astrophysicists, then in classified defense circles. Could this be an artifact? Could a civilization somewhere in the galaxy have sent a probe, frozen, self-contained, wandering for eons between the stars? Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb wrote a cautious paper. If it is artificial, 3I/Atlas might represent an ancient form of interstellar technology, possibly self-replicating or data-bearing. Even more alarming is its size, the fact that it's at least 1,000, maybe up to 1,000,000 times more massive than previous interstellar objects. During December, on December 19th, it will come closest to Earth. And that will be 1 week before Christmas. We could get the gift of seeing the best image of it. Its trajectory is lying in the plane of the planets and it's coming pretty close to 3 planets. Mars, Venus, and Jupiter, and that suggests maybe it has some purpose. The suggestion caused uproar, yet no one could prove him wrong. When it passed Jupiter's orbit, something else happened. Its trajectory subtly altered, no more than 0.001 degrees, but the change could not be explained by gravity or outgassing. The jetting from sublimation should have pushed it randomly, yet the adjustment was consistent with a controlled vector correction. It aimed slightly inward as if aligning with the Sun-Earth line. The anomaly was logged, debated, then buried under cautious terminology. They simply called it a non-gravitational acceleration, as its irregular occurrence. By September, every major observatory was following it. Spectroscopic data from the European Southern Observatory confirmed unusual thermal stability on its surface. Despite increasing solar heat, it maintained nearly constant temperature, as if regulating itself. Some said it might have a crust of exotic metal acting as insulation. Others whispered of a self-powered shell. Hubble captured something stranger. Around the object, a halo of charged particles formed geometric patterns. Not the chaotic arcs of dust but radial alignments resembling magnetic field structures. These symmetrical plumes rotated in sync with the 23-minute interval seen earlier. Radio telescopes turned their dishes toward it, scanning for signals. For 2 nights, the Allen Telescope Array picked up narrowband emissions near 1,420 MHz, the hydrogen line. Then they vanished. The official statement said, instrumental interference. When it crossed the orbit of Mars, its brightness dipped sharply, then flared. The flare was short, 2 minutes, and emitted across multiple wavelengths. Spectrographs revealed bursts of ultraviolet radiation inconsistent with any natural reflection. For a brief moment, 3I/Atlas glowed with the same spectral profile as ionized titanium alloys. To some, it looked like a thermal venting sequence. To others, it looked like ignition. Governments quietly assembled working groups. The Pentagon's Space Domain Awareness Unit listed it as an object of interest. The European Space Agency proposed a flyby mission, but time was too short. Even traveling at record speeds, a probe would need years to intercept. By the time it reached the inner solar system, it would already be leaving again. Spectrographic data from 3I/Atlas revealed a strong nickel signature far purer than that found in natural meteorites. The alloy ratio suggests deliberate refinement rather than planetary differentiation. Nickel's magnetic and thermal resilience could explain the object's stable temperature and organized particle halo. If verified, it would imply that 3I/Atlas is encased in engineered nickel armor built to survive interstellar flight. By October, 3I/Atlas approached its perihelion, its closest point to the Sun. Amateur astronomers kept watching. Through backyard telescopes, they described it as unnaturally smooth, its light curve lacking the irregular flicker of rotation. Some claimed it even changed albedo in response to observation, as if aware of being watched. Mainstream scientists dismissed the idea as observational bias or optical artifacts. Still, the myth was forming, that something not made by nature had entered our realm. Predictive models expected it to flare dramatically, perhaps even fragment under the heat. Instead it stabilized. The outgassing ceased. Its tail, once luminous, condensed into a thin, straight beam trailing behind it, perfectly aligned with its motion. Heliophysicists noticed that the beam pointed directly along the magnetic field lines of the Sun. That alignment was too precise to be coincidence. NASA's Parker Solar Probe detected an electromagnetic pulse as it passed through the same heliographic longitude. It was weak, patterned, and lasted 7 seconds. The data packets contained repeating structures resembling binary sequences, alternating signals that mirrored prime numbers. The analysis was inconclusive. Officially, they labeled it solar interference. Unofficially, a classified memo circulated through the agency, possible directed burst associated with 3I/Atlas transit. 2 weeks later, when it began its exit trajectory, the anomaly deepened. The object decelerated slightly relative to its expected velocity. Again, not enough to prove propulsion but too much to ignore. The explanation of asymmetric sublimation no longer matched the data. There was no active jetting visible. It was as if something within it had engaged a mild braking maneuver. The light flickers returned but with new rhythm. 13 minutes now, not 23. Each pulse carried fine modulations, harmonic patterns that some researchers described as information encoding. There is intelligent life throughout the galaxy. Not only that, but I think there's intelligent life in our neighborhood, the neighborhood of the Milky Way galaxy. SETI's data center ran autocorrelation analyses. The result was structure, clusters of prime intervals, recurring fractal harmonics. It was not random noise. But admitting that publicly would open a door that science wasn't ready to walk through. In late October, the New York Post broke the story, quoting an anonymous Harvard source claiming 3I/Atlas emitted a metallic alloy spectrum never seen in nature. It sparked global frenzy. Within hours, social media filled with comparisons to Oumuamua. Discovered in 2017, Oumuamua was the first confirmed interstellar object, small, tumbling, and oddly elongated with no visible coma. It showed non-gravitational acceleration without detectable gas jets, leading some to suspect light sail or artificial origins. 3I/Atlas is much larger. And unlike Oumuamua's dry rock appearance, 3I/Atlas releases carbon dioxide and shows metallic spectral lines, possibly indicating refined nickel. Immediately, there were theories that 3I/Atlas could be an alien probe, and that the object might be observing us. NASA refused comment. ESA issued only a brief statement: all available evidence indicates natural cometary behavior. But even within their ranks, not everyone agreed. As it passed beyond Earth's orbit, radar arrays detected faint echoes inconsistent with its size. The reflections hinted at interior cavities, hollow spaces where density should be solid. The mass estimates dropped, suggesting it was lighter than it appeared. That meant either porous rock or engineered framework. The data didn't tell which. Then came the silence. Instruments that had tracked it flawlessly began to lose lock. Its magnitude dimmed more rapidly than predicted, as if its surface absorbed light instead of reflecting it. The tail vanished completely. When Hubble reoriented days later, 3I/Atlas was gone, still on trajectory but optically invisible. Only infrared sensors on the Spitzer successor mission caught its faint heat trail, narrow, coherent, like exhaust fading into space. Speculation surged. Some proposed that it activated a stealth mechanism, shielding itself from optical detection. Others argued it was simply rotating into an angle that deflected sunlight differently. A minority whispered that it had accelerated, leaving faster than physics could comfortably explain. The official orbital tables showed no such jump, but those calculations relied on the last optical fix, not new telemetry. In the months that followed, 3I/Atlas faded into the outer darkness. Only fragments of data remained, a spectrum here, a radio pulse there. Yet within those fragments, patterns lingered. Binary primes. Ratios of hydrogen frequencies. Encoded mathematics that seemed to whisper, "We are not alone." They say 3I/Atlas did not arrive randomly. Its approach vector traced backward not to an arbitrary point in the galaxy but to the direction of Lyra, the same region from which Oumuamua once came. The odds of two interstellar visitors arriving from the same general stellar neighborhood are infinitesimal, unless they were set. And so the theory took root, that 3I/Atlas was not debris but message, a silent observer drifting from civilization to civilization, scanning, recording, maybe even seeding. Its metallic shell could be ancient beyond measure, tens of millions of years old, still functioning. What we saw as ice and dust might be camouflage, layers of frozen protection around something engineered. If that were true, its brief pulse at 1420 MHz was not an accident. It might have been a ping, a signal saying, "We see you." The 7-second transmission of prime number intervals could have been a handshake protocol, a mathematical greeting that any intelligent species could decode. But perhaps, realizing what we are, it chose silence again, continuing on its endless journey. Imagine a nuclear-powered probe, autonomous, self-repairing, older than civilization itself. A silent machine crossing interstellar distances, observing emergent life forms, cataloging planetary biospheres. That would explain its immense mass, its energy stability, its indifference to solar storms. It was built not to survive millennia but millions of years. If 3I/Atlas was a probe, then somewhere in the abyss, its creators are analyzing the data now. They know our radio emissions, our atmospheric composition, our thermal profile, and our technological level. Perhaps they are indifferent, or perhaps they are waiting for a signal of acknowledgement. What we choose to send next will define us. The earliest civilizations left warnings that sound eerily relevant now. In Sumerian tablets dating back over 5,000 years, the scribes described sky beings called Anunnaki, those who from heaven to earth came. They spoke of fiery craft that descended from the sky, machines that glowed like molten metal, and beings who promised to return when the stars align once more. For centuries, these stories were dismissed as mythology, but modern data about interstellar visitors like 3I/Atlas is forcing a quiet re-evaluation. Ancient cuneiform texts such as the Enuma Elish and the Epic of Atrahasis describe a moment when the gods departed, vowing to return through the heavenly gates. These gates were said to open at fixed intervals of great cycles measured by the precession of the equinoxes, roughly every 26,000 years. Sumerian astronomer priests tracked those cycles with uncanny precision, predicting cosmic alignments between Earth, the Sun, and distant stars including Vega and Lyra, the very region from which 3I/Atlas appears to have come. That coincidence, once irrelevant, now seems mathematically unsettling. The tablets of Enki speak of the messengers of the deep, who traverse the void, in shining chariots that burn not, that feed upon the fire of heaven. Scholars once interpreted this as poetic metaphor for meteors or comets. But in the context of a nuclear-powered interstellar object, the description suddenly reads as technical observation. The fire of heaven could easily refer to radiation or plasma propulsion witnessed by early humans. If the Anunnaki were explorers using automated craft, 3I/Atlas might be one of those messengers, finally returning on the timeline they themselves recorded. The Sumerians divided time into epochs they called Sar, each roughly 3,600 years, representing the orbital period of the planet they believed the Anunnaki inhabited, Nibiru. Every few Sar cycles, they wrote, the Watchers shall return to measure the seed of men. If we project those intervals forward from the last known epochal record around 2000 BCE, the next calculated window of return falls near our present century. Whether coincidence or convergence, the appearance of an engineered object from the same celestial sector cannot be ignored. Cylinder seals unearthed at Uar and Kish show elongated objects streaking across the heavens surrounded by smaller spheres. Mainstream archaeology calls them symbolic depictions of stars. Yet their geometry, central core with evenly spaced satellites, bears uncanny resemblance to radar signatures recorded around 3I/Atlas as it exited the solar system. It is possible that ancient witnesses saw the same structure millennia ago, leaving visual records interpreted later as divine art. If 3I/Atlas is indeed a probe, the Anunnaki myths might not be mythology but encoded memory of prior contact. Ancient languages often merge technology with theology. Gods may simply have been engineers so advanced, their machines blurred into miracles. Assyriologists note that the Sumerian word Dingar, meaning God, is formed by the symbol of a star combined with the sign for highness. It implies origin from the heavens rather than abstract divinity. When later Mesopotamian cultures adopted the term, they kept the astronomical association. If we view Dingar through a modern lens, it reads as those from the stars, perfectly aligned with the concept of extraterrestrial explorers. The probability of 3I/Atlas originating near Lyra mirrors the mythic geography of the Anunnaki home described as above the 7 constellations of the Bull, which in ancient Mesopotamian star maps points toward Vega. The correspondence is astonishing. Those early priests could not have known Vega's distance or position relative to our solar plane, yet their records align with the same celestial coordinates traced by our interstellar visitor. Either it is coincidence or the ancients preserved genuine astronomical information inherited from beings who came from there. Modern astronomers tracking 3I/Atlas have noted that its light curve fluctuates at harmonic intervals matching the lunar cycle, roughly 29 days. Some have speculated that this may be an intentional timing mechanism designed to synchronize with inhabited worlds possessing moons of similar orbital ratios. The Sumerians often associated the god Nana, Lord of the Moon, with the timing of divine visitations. His hymns describe the ship of heaven that sails by the measure of months. The alignment is unsettlingly poetic and precise. If we accept the possibility that ancient texts encode observational data, then 3I/Atlas might represent the fulfillment of an ancient cycle. The myths describe return not as invasion but as assessment, the gods watching to see how humanity has evolved. The inscriptions of Lagash mention the great shining eye that records all deeds under the sun. Today, that description fits disturbingly well with an automated probe designed to survey planetary civilizations through electromagnetic observation. Mathematically, the probability that 2 interstellar visitors, Oumuamua and 3I/Atlas, arrive from the same celestial corridor within decades is vanishingly small. Yet it mirrors the ancient motif of paired heralds, one to announce, one to observe. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, Enkidu tells the king that a messenger precedes the host. If Oumuamua was the precursor, then 3I/Atlas may be the main emissary, completing a pattern written in stone thousands of years ago. Some researchers have gone further, suggesting that 3I/Atlas could serve as a data seed, carrying within it biological or informational blueprints. The Sumerians believed the Anunnaki fashioned mankind from the clay of the Abzu, blending divine essence with earthly matter. In modern terms, that reads like genetic engineering or directed panspermia. If 3I/Atlas contains digital archives of DNA or civilization data, it could be part of a galactic network of life seeding or monitoring stations. The connection between myth and observation grows more difficult to dismiss. The implications are vast. If 3I/Atlas is a probe from an ancient civilization connected to the stories of the Anunnaki, then humanity's earliest gods were not deities but scientists conducting a survey of a young species. Our temples, rituals, and myths would be cultural echoes of that first encounter. The promise of return carved on Sumerian tablets would not be prophecy but schedule. Some fear this possibility, imagining conquest or judgment. Others see hope, that advanced intelligences who once guided our ancestors may still watch with curiosity rather than hostility. In either case, 3i/Atlas forces us to confront the oldest human question. Are we alone or are we part of a continuum of civilizations far older than we can comprehend? For now, the probe has vanished into the deep beyond Jupiter, its trajectory bending toward the outer darkness. Yet in the silence of its departure, the words of the ancients echo louder than ever. When the star of the gods returns, they wrote, men shall know their makers. Whether those makers are myth or machine, the alignment of mythic memory and modern observation suggests that history may be far longer, and far more connected, than we dare to imagine.